What's up, guys? How you doing? It's your boy Bitcoin Roddy coming to you guys straight from the basement here and excited about this new opportunity. One thing I think you guys should always add to your portfolio. This is not to take the place of anything that you're doing right now. This is a way to just add to what you already have. It's pretty exciting. I've never been able to, even myself, to get into a full-blown hedge fund that was offered to the masses, and now we do have one. We have some guys here who are super legit and compliant that makes sure that what we have here will be around for the long haul. The best thing about what we have right here is that we're invited for it. We're invited to it first. We are the number one people being able to take a part of this. I mean, they've been around for a while, but they've just been around in this part of the masses for a very short time. So get excited. I'm gonna introduce you guys to my good friend, dear friend, long-term business partner, Mr. Hedge, and his partner, Jason Rose, and the high velocity trader, Mr. Will's iPhone. I don't know his last name. So guys, let me introduce you guys to Mr. Hedge. He is the guy who brought this to my eyes to see. I trust him dearly, blindly. But good thing is they have tons and tons of legitimate proof of how this thing works. So get excited what you're about to see. Hedge, you are now on.
Excellent. Thank you very much, Rodney. Like everybody on this call probably knows, Rodney and I have known each other for almost a decade at this point. We've done very well together in a lot of different things. And this particular project that you guys are about to see is right in line with the kind of things that we like to do. Something that is new, something that is trending upwards, and something that is 100% compliant, legitimate, and set up the right way. So what I'm going to do is put my screen share on and really quickly walk you guys through exactly what this is. You're going to notice that I'm not going to use any fancy PowerPoints that are designed by some marketing team and so on, because those tend to usually confuse the message. Okay. The point here is to actually just communicate the reality of this to you guys very quickly. So we all know that the best time to get involved in anything is right at the beginning of a new major trend. And right now we're at the beginning of a pretty significant trend, which is non-institutional financial supply chain. Now that's basically just a big mouthful to highlight how the new economy works. Okay, that's why the cryptocurrency markets are as big as they are, and they're getting bigger. That's why there is so much interest in the space. Now, almost all of us probably remember 20 years ago, if you wanted to go buy a pen or a car or whatever, the only way you did that was you went to a local retail store who in the background, if you guys can see my screen, can see this, was supplied by a wholesaler who had a contract, who had a distributor, who had an exporter or importer license, who then had a manufacturer. There was a whole chain of people in the background. And you guys never interacted with them. You never knew that even existed. And in the last 20 years, especially in the last 10 years, that's completely changed because of e-commerce and stuff, right? What has happened is now the consumer doesn't go to the local retail store anymore. The consumer just interacts directly with any of these people on a platform like Amazon, right? That's literally what happens at this point. Is there anybody who does not recognize that that's been the major shift that has happened in the last 10 to 20 years? Not at all. Everybody gets it. Now, that's the exact same thing that's currently going on in the financial markets. Almost everybody understands instinctively today that there is a huge market out there. There have been hedge funds and there have been financial markets and systems out there that have not been accessible to the average person for a while. See, today anybody can set up a store on Amazon and start selling and do all that stuff. That was not possible 10, 15 years ago. And that's the case today, where people are realizing the same thing in the financial markets, that they want access to something that so far has been limited and withheld from them. Now, obviously, this is a very big need. This is a very big demand. And unfortunately, whenever there's a demand like that, you obviously have things pop up that are not necessarily very legitimate either. So I'm assuming every single person on this call in the last 30 days alone has been hit up about some kind of a passive program. I know I'm pitched something new every single week. In fact, if you guys want to use your chat quick, just let me know if you have been presented with some kind of a passive 1% a day, 2% a day, something like that in the last 30 days. Just put a 1 or something in the chat just so we can keep a track of what's going on. So yeah, pretty much everybody has been hit by something like that. Now, here's the problem with almost every single one of those things. There is almost never any kind of regulatory proof for it. There is no proof of performance. There is no clear revenue source. They'll say stuff like, you're going to double your money, triple your money. You're going to get a 1% return or a 2% return or something silly like that. But there is never actual evidence of where that's going to come from. And there's never actual regulatory setup behind them, right? It's just you're supposed to believe them and send money in, and then majority of the time it doesn't pan out. Here's what's so different about the Apex financial platform that we're about to look at here in a second. This is an SEC registered platform. It is fully regulated by the SEC. It's registered actually as a pooled investment hedge fund for its activities. It is absolutely real, and they're one of the only platforms that I've ever seen that literally have both video proof as well as active proof that they post on their platform publicly, so anybody can go and check that. We're going to actually do that here in a minute. And finally, for many of us on this call who are also interested in the promotional aspect of this, this is the realest residual thing that exists. And I'm going to come to that in a second because it's very, very critical in the way this thing is structured, why that's so important. So how does Apex generate revenue for its users, for its participants? It's very straightforward. There are three primary things. They do something called high velocity trading. And we actually have the head of high velocity trading, Mr. Will Marshall, on the call with us here. That involves about 4,000 automated daily trades. The second is commodity and energy trading, which is a traditional fundamental trading thing. That's actually how I know these guys, is because I know the hedge fund in the background. I've been an investor in the hedge fund for a long time. And then they also participate in financing industry, specifically in foreign direct investments and so on, for long-term things. The beautiful thing here is all of us know that these things happen in the background, right? All of us understand this stuff happens, but most people are never able to get access to this. And that's what this allows us to do. We can actually go onto Apex, join without having to put in millions of dollars. We can join, we can participate in these things, and we can actually start getting some return from all of those things as well. And you'll notice that I'm saying some things that usually companies avoid saying. I'm saying things like investment, I'm saying things like returns, and usually companies in this space at least use words to hide around it, right? They'll say, oh, let's not call it any of those things. No, this is actually compliant. It is actually a return for an investor. Okay, so I'm being so open about that because this is actually set up and regulated and registered on that basis. Okay, now who can participate in this? There are two ways to participate. You can participate as an investor who is looking to generate a return from these markets. That's available to about 150 countries globally, and to anybody in the US who is an accredited investor. We can go over that in a moment. The minimum to get started is as low as $500. And the way Apex generates their returns, the way they make their money, is by charging a performance fee. What that means is that there are no monthly costs, there is no auto ship, there are no setup fees.
I give you.
You don't have to. Sorry, you should be able to hear me again. So you don't have to pay any upfront fees. You don't have to have any monthly auto ships or anything of that sort. The Apex fund literally behaves like most traditional hedge funds do, where what they do is when they generate a return for their clients, which will be the investors on the platform, they charge a 30% fee on that. Okay, so it's a win-win. They generate their revenue when they generate revenue for the investor. And we're actually going to see this here in a moment. I'm going to go into the back office and we'll actually go through all this, all of the stuff. Now, the second way to participate is as a promoter, which is why Rodney is holding this webinar and why there are going to be so many of you interested in this as well, which again has no monthly fees, no setup fees, no purchases required of any kind. Okay, so this is not one of those things where you have to buy stuff so you can sell it to other people, nothing to purchase whatsoever. And you get paid both instantly, but more specifically, you actually get paid from the performance fees that are charged by Apex. And that's what makes this so unique. And that's what makes this so powerful in the long run. Okay, so really quick, I'm actually going to go to Apex's website and we're going to walk through this together, what the process looks like for somebody to get started and what their back office looks like. So this is Apex's website. You can go on there. anybody's able to go on there, Rodney will share a link with all of you right at the end. One of the best things about this site is that you can actually go straight to the due diligence page right here, and you can see on this page actual proof of trading with about $20 million in this beta test account. And there's additional evidence like this being posted. The registration documents for the fund, as well as the SEC registration document right here. So again, I've not seen anything out there that actually publicly posts these things. So let's actually go into the back office and walk through what this process looks like. So if you are just starting out, you would go on here, you create your account, you log in, and you would go straight to My Wallet. Obviously, this would show 0 for you. And you'll see this thing called A.F.T. That's the Apex Financial Token. That's just their internal mechanism for tracking all of the capital that you're moving around in here, right? So it's like a gift card on Amazon. It's the exact same thing. This is not a speculative token. I don't want you guys to think of it like, oh, this is one of those companies that says buy our tokens and it's going to be worth 10 times more in the future. It's nothing like that. It is simply $1 is one token. That's it, straight up. This is not some kind of speculative thing. So they would say, I want to purchase some A.F.T. They would enter the amount that they want to invest, that they want to deploy as capital, and they can pay with Bitcoin, Ethereum, Litecoin. There are additional payment methods available. If they want to do it in a different way that is not listed on here, they can actually contact support and say, hey, I'm an investor and I want to invest X amount. How do I go about it? And the support staff will take care of that. Once they have some A.F.T. in their account, then the next step is for them to decide where they want to stake it. And these are the 3 primary staking portfolios available to them: Rise, Scale, and Soar. And the idea behind them is that everybody has different concepts of how much liquidity they want, what kind of returns they're looking for, and so on. So you can actually see down here, I actually created these 3 stakes myself last week. This is actually in one of my accounts. And you can see all the details right here. So the Apex Rise portfolio is basically designed to be a 90-day thing. You're going to put your capital in for 90 days. At the end of 90 days, your capital is released again. You can decide at that point what you want to do with it and what their performance has been for the last 90 days on average. Okay, this number changes all the time because, again, this is based on real performance in the market. So let's say you're somebody who came in and said, I want to stake $1,000. You would click this button, you would put 1,000 in here, and you're good to go. At that point, you've staked your capital in there. It takes 5 days for that capital to get deployed, okay, which again is an important piece. If you ever are in a company and they say, you click this button and the next day or the next hour, you start receiving a return, that's usually not how it works. There's some time that it requires for it to actually get deployed into active trading and so on. And then from that moment on, you start getting a gain that gets posted on your account. That gain is instantly withdrawable if you want to. So you can see that right here, gain restrictions none, it's instantly withdrawable. That's your own money at that point. But this original amount, your principal, is what's locked up for those 90 days. So this return gets posted in your account every single day on a business days. Okay, so it's 5 days a week typically. Now, let's really look at an example of this. So you can see on this account right here, I already actually had a gain posted on these 3 portfolios specifically this morning. Okay, so this is when this was my first gain on this particular account. And you can see right here, the returns that I received from it was $777.50, basically what it came out to, kind of a funny number, unique number, I guess. But an interesting thing is that you'll notice out of that, they took out these performance fees automatically. So you can see that $82.50 was my gain that was posted to the account. $24.75 was the fee that was deducted from it. Same thing here. You can see that it happens pretty much instantly. And this is very important. I want you guys to remember this in your mind, and we'll come back to this performance fee portion in a moment. But fundamentally, that's the entirety of what the platform is all about. It's very straightforward. It's very clean. That's what it's designed to do. It's designed for investors to come in, participate with even a small amount of capital. They don't have to have millions of dollars to participate like they typically do in a hedge fund. They can start with very low amounts, with small amounts, and get going right away. Now, this is the same trend that you've already been seeing in other industries. You now see companies like Stash and Robinhood and so on, where it's all about the idea that the average person can come in without massive amounts of capital and they can take part in the stock market and so on. It's the same concept here with Apex, except that it's being expanded a little bit. Instead of you just participating in one type of market, you're participating in multiple things in the background that are then all aggregated together and then post a return to you. So far, does anybody have any questions? Because if you guys do, please post them in the chat. We're going to come back to all of those questions and cover those as well. But what I'd like to do really quickly is highlight the most important, the biggest piece right now in the background of Apex, which is this high velocity trading section. This high velocity trading piece is why we have with us on the call the head of high velocity trading with Apex. Will, if you are available, if you can unmute yourself, and maybe we can go over the history of the high velocity trading side and the fact that this has actually been running since exactly a year and a week ago, since April of 2020. So, Will, if you can unmute yourself and answer a few questions, that would be fantastic.
Hey, before you, Will, goes on, I just want to say so far, again, even though my first time seeing it was last week, I'm still blown away by what these guys are definitely offering. So it would be cool to explain is how this company is able to offer this type of service to the actual public, and how are these individuals able to take advantage of it, and how come it hadn't been out here before?
Well, that's okay. So two things, right? It's like asking why weren't people buying from Amazon before Amazon existed? Well, the technology wasn't there yet, right? So one of the reasons why is because nobody has really set up an aggregated hedge fund of this kind that is available at a low entry point. There are hedge funds out there of all sorts of level, right? People who minimum being 100,000 to a minimum being a million. This is the first group that has taken a big step towards establishing a company and establishing a fund that specifically understands that there is a much bigger market out there, that the world has shifted, right? This is no longer just about institutional investors. They want to make sure that the average people can come in, they can participate on the platform, and they can aggregate them all together. Okay? It's like a pooled investment. There are companies and there are many startups that do this when they're internally financing, but this is definitely the first one that's doing it at this level of scale. Okay, and like I said, there are a lot of other companies that have realized that there are a lot of different programs out there that are heading in this direction. I think Robinhood is a very big example. Stash, Acorn, all of these companies do the same thing. They're about getting access to these financial spaces to the average person. The Apex is just the first one that's doing it with an actual hedge fund structure, which is what makes them so unique. And again, we are literally the very first people to know about this because their SEC filings were completed last month. Okay, so if you actually go on the site and then look at the SEC filing, you can see it was actually completed in March of 2021, so just a month ago. And I have known of these guys. I actually know the guys in the background. Two of the hedge fund participants, I know them because I've been an investor with them for a long time. So that's why I was able to hear about this and be aware of it before pretty much anybody else heard about it. And obviously, Rodney, you were one of the very first people I told about it. So it is a very, very interesting and a very unique opportunity that we are here at the very beginning. We all know this is the big trend. We all know this is where it's all headed. And we have the opportunity to either participate on the investment side or participate as a promoter or both. We can do both of them together as well.
That's pretty exciting. So let's go to the chat and see who we have that has any questions so far. So far, guys, does anyone have any questions so far of what you've heard so far? Or are you just right now, is your mind blown like mine is? So if you're not a U.S. accredited investor, you can only be a promoter. So yes, so the answer to that question is if you are not an accredited investor, you can only be a promoter for now, but you can actually earn your way to be an accreditor as you promote and become and earn income. So this pays out over 20 levels deep as well.
Yeah. So we're going to go to the promotion side here in a bit. We'll go through some of these details. But just to clarify, so if you are in the US, you have to be an accredited investor. If you're not in the US, that doesn't really apply. So you don't have to worry about that if you're international. But as a US participant, you will want to make sure that you either have a net worth of $1 million, or you have income exceeding $200,000, or if you're a sophisticated investor, that's another category. You have a CPA or an attorney that can certify that. There are a lot more people just in the US alone that fit in that category than a lot of people realize. But even if you're not, that's fine. You can join the platform, you can create an account, and you can get going immediately. You don't have to become an accredited investor and wait for that before you start promoting. So you have both of those opportunities available to you immediately. Okay, I see one of the questions is, no, so you don't have to purchase anything or be an investor or anything of the sort before you can start promoting. If that's what your aim is, you can get going on that right away. Hopefully that's very clear. So let's walk through the actual structure on the promotion side, what that looks like, just so everybody on this call is very, very clear on it. And then we will come back to the investment side, and hopefully we have Will's audio working and he can get on and go through some of the history of the high velocity trading and how it's worked so far. So guys, this is, again, a very unique thing because you don't usually see this on anything out there. There are no special qualifications for this. There is nothing to purchase for this. There is no authorship to sign up. There is no setup fee or anything of the sort. Okay, you can literally just become an affiliate of the platform. You create your account, and you can see all of the details right here on the side in the rewards plan. It's very straightforward. There's a 20-level unilevel structure on which basis you get paid. So if I refer Rodney and then Rodney refers somebody else and so on, this is the breakdown of what those commissions look like. Now, I hope the thought going through a lot of your minds is, oh, I've been a part of other companies and they pay out like 30%, 40%. Why does this look so low compared to that? Because this is real. Okay, number one, if you have a company that's taking 30 or 40% or even 20% of the capital that's coming in and paying that out in commissions, how are they supposed to generate returns, right? Think about that. They can't generate returns for anybody if they're already paying out 70% into commissions. So that's immediately a big giant red flag that should not be the case. So this portion is nice, right? This is fine, but this is not the important part. The important part is actually this section here, which is the performance bonus. And here's how this works. So you remember when I'd shown you guys the back office and I'd shown you these performance fees. This is the most important aspect of this platform. So this performance fee, when Apex charges that, 90% of this gets paid out to the affiliates. Okay, so right here, when $160 roughly was collected as performance fee from my account, that was the money that Apex made. Apex is going to turn 90% of that and pay that out in commissions across the 20 level unilevel. Why that's so critical is that you need to understand that you could refer somebody to the platform. They are an active investor. And as long as they have a stake in here and it's generating a return for them, you're getting paid every single day. They don't have to rebuy anything. They don't have to compound anything. They're not necessarily coming in and putting more money in, and they're not referring anybody else. But you are still getting paid over the lifetime of them being active in the platform. Now, it's very similar if you think about it, why banks and major financial institutions and financial advisors who manage 401ks and stuff, why they're so eager to always keep capital in their fund. Well, because as long as the capital stays in their fund, they keep getting paid. And it's the exact same thing here. But instead of us just being consumers and watching this thing play out, now we get to participate in it. So if you're a promoter and you say, look, I'm going to go out and bring some people in here, when they join, when they become investors, when they have stakes running, you are actually getting paid every single day. And here's the best part about this, right? You know that in this transaction, you are getting paid because they are getting paid, right? You are actually being successful based on their success as well. And you know that the company is making money. it's a win-win all around. You never get that icky feeling that hopefully many of you have had in different companies and traditional MLMs and stuff, where you're like, oh, I just made this commission, but I know that I sold a bunch of stuff to somebody else, or somebody else took a loss and that's why I made a profit. You never have to have that feeling here. And that's one of the great things about this. Rodney, is this part clear? Does this part make sense?
It makes total sense. I mean, it's pretty exciting that the way this all works together like a fine oiled machine. I mean, I'm pretty excited about it. Let's go. So one guy wants to know in the chat. He said, please explain return on one day off 100K. I don't know if you can do that. You also have 500 gets you how much money in 90 days. So the one thing I think is different from this deal than most is you have an actual time clock of a 90 days, 180 days, and then 1 year. I myself did the 1 year so that I can, do what I have to do daily as well. And people also want to know, even though there's no button that says compound or whatever, can you still compound your funds?
Sure. So let's answer both of those. And actually, I'm glad we are doing the call today, because now in my account, I can show this stuff, right? Yesterday, I didn't even have my first gain hadn't posted yet. So I can actually show this right now. So you can see that today, this morning, I received this gain, okay? And this gain gets posted into my wallet, as you guys saw on the 12th, right? After the performance fees were deducted, this is what was left as of this morning. So in terms of compounding, absolutely, I can just stake this 544 and I can go and create a new stake right now, right? I can put 544 in and create a new stake. And that's in effect compounding, okay? Now it's not gonna automatically do that for me. I have to manually do it. I have to decide, do I want to pull my profits out, or do I want to put these profits into another stake and keep it going? That's my decision. That's not gonna happen automatically. But if let's say Rodney referred me, then today Rodney would have received basically commissions or performance rewards on this performance fee that was generated by the company on the gains that my account received. Tomorrow, the same thing will happen again. And the day after that, the same thing happens again. So Rodney doesn't rely on me compounding this to be able to generate any kind of an income. That's one of the critical things here that everybody needs to understand. Now, if I do decide to purchase another stake and compound and put more capital in, that's an additional source of revenue for Rodney as the referrer in this case, but that's not at all necessary, right? It's even without me doing that, it's still going to generate an ongoing thing for Rodney in there. And another very important thing here is that this is structured like a traditional, true, real world investment. See, in the real world, when you invest in something, you really do it by a certain time period. You say, hey, I'm going to put money in over this time period and see how it performs. If you're in the stock market, you might be doing that right now. I'm going to evaluate my performance on a quarterly basis. That's exactly what you do here. So you're going to put it in for 90 days and you're going to evaluate over those 90 days if the returns that are being generated are the returns that you're really happy with or not. And at the end of it, you decide what you want to do with it. If you want to keep going, if you want to move to an additional stake, if you want to expand capital, reduce it, you are the one in control. You're the one who makes all those decisions. And that's how it should be, right? You don't want to be locked in here for who knows how long. You have no idea. So this is actually very, very helpful for most people and how most people traditionally have invested.
What you saying, Hedge?
Let me go back to the chat.
Where's Will? Let's get Will on here. Let Will, the high velocity training trader, give a few words of what we have to look forward to in the near future. What is going on in the background? Maybe the tech part. But to one of the guys here, Foster, the answer to your question is, says, I am unclear on what you said about U.S. citizens being able to promote. Do I have to be an accredited investor to promote this? No, John Foster, you do not need to be an accredited investor in order to promote this. You could be any Joe Blow, anybody who's excited about building their life financially, and share with individuals that may be accredited, and you still get paid without you spending any money at all, not one dime. and you can earn your way to become an accredited investor, which should not take long depending on your efforts. So if that makes sense. And there's also some other ways that I'll explain to you guys later if you're not an accredited investor, how you can still get started as well. I think that I don't know if Hedge will go over that part on here or not, but for those who have funds and still want to get started, there may be a way that can be done. They will either discuss it, but I think it's pretty simple to do for those who who are worthy of that. Next, can you give a financial example, Daniel? So, Daniel, what do you mean by can he give a financial example of what?
Sure, we can actually go right here on their website and we can look at an example.
Oh, great.
So let's look at what this would look like. So if you were to come in and say, I'm going to stake 5,000 A.F.T, this is actually on their site, right? So that's why I don't mind doing this. So you can come in here and stake 5,000. And let's say you were like, I just want to try it out for a quarter with the Rise thing. You can select Rise from here. And then whatever the estimated return is going to be over the time period. So right here, we can see that over the last 90 days, the performance was 0.53. Okay, so let's just stick with that. Let's assume that that's how it's going to go, even though that's not always the case, right? It's going to be higher or lower over time. And it's different every day, just so everybody's very clear. This is based on real performance in the market. Okay, so this is not some guaranteed, this is the fixed return that you're getting every single day. It is going to fluctuate all the time. So let's say that it performs less than this. Okay, so let's say that it does it at 0.43. Then in that case, you would have a total gain over that time period, over those 90 days. You would have a gain of $1,300, out of which performance fees taken out would be 414. So at the end of that staking period, instead of having 5,000 A.F.T, you would have 5,967, which is basically 6,000. That's what you would be pulling out in that case. Now, if instead you were to do the same thing and say, I'm going to do it for a year, and the performance is higher on that, because obviously the performance, I think, is 0.8 here. Let's just say it's 0.7, okay? In that case, you're looking at a total gain of 9,000. You basically take your 5,000 turns into 11,300 after the performance fees. Okay, so it's very, very strong. And I really want you guys to have the right understanding of this. Compare this to returns on the S&P 500, or compare this to the returns on all sorts of other things that are out there. You will realize that in the real world, this is exceptional. This is like as strong as it can get. And again, this can be different, depending on what happens. Now, maybe the next year, the performance isn't that strong. Maybe it only performs at 0.6 instead of at 0.8 like it did. And we can see what that number would look like here. In that case, you would have 7,700 gain. So you guys can go on the side and play around with this yourself, run different scenarios and see what you would like to do there. Okay, so KJ asked, please return explain on 1 day of 100K. So that would just depend on, well, actually we can just change this to 100K and you can see it. And again, remember, it will vary depending on what the performance of the market is. But basically you would have a total net gain of about 45,000 if these were the numbers. You'd be looking at about a $45,000 gain. You can divide that out to figure out what the exact per day gain would look like in that particular scenario. And guys, so very important that I really keep emphasizing this, but I do want to highlight this. This changes every day because in the real world, whatever is happening in the background in the markets also changes every day. What the trading looks like on the high velocity side versus what the net returns look like over a quarter in the commodity trading, all of those things are different all the time. And so that heavily affects what your return on a day looks like. So you might have 0.3 on one day and 0.6 on the next day, and it averages out to maybe 0.45 over time, but it's going to fluctuate off and on depending on that.
Makes sense to me, Hitesh. Hey, Daniel, does that make sense to you? The example he gave you using that calculator? I think it does. So Hitesh, Do this one more time and do it like for a year and see what those numbers look like on the SOAR. SOAR.
Okay. So if you're on the year, this is the one that I just did. And and it performed the same way that it did last 1 year. This is the performance over the last 90 days on the SOAR. So let's say that is what we got was 0.81. Then this is what you'd be looking at. The 100K turns into 245. And again, it can be more or less than this. And I really want to have Will talk a little bit about what the performance was in the last year on the high velocity trading side specifically. Will, if you are unmuted, if you're available.
I am, yes, I'm here. Can you hear me?
Okay, excellent. Yes, we can hear you. So,
hey, Rodney.
Guys, really quick before Will goes into the detail, let me just show you guys. So on the About Us page, you can see that you have Will Marshall right here, who is the head of high velocity trading. So Will, if you can walk through a little bit of what the high velocity trading team specifically does and how long you've been running this actively in terms of not like a back test, not like if we were running this for the last year, but specifically in an active live sense that you've been running this. Can you share with us what it has done and how this all came together?
Okay, very good. I'd love to. So, fellas, how it started was there was a group of young men. One was a programmer, the other was a mathematician, and they literally finished their university degrees, and they were in the same school, diverse backgrounds, and they started to play with the idea that maybe there was an opportunity at that time to look at high velocity trading in an algorithmic or artificial intelligence or machine learning process. And so they developed their own hardware, their own software, and started to experiment on what it would look like. And they experimented very, very small, $500 here. They looked at all the available coins at that time. And if you go back in time, even 3 years, which feels probably closer to 30 years in the Bitcoin world, things are moving very quickly. And the basics of the exchange concept had not really been fully vested in the financial industry as it related to this commodity. And my background was in commodity, and I started in the gold industry, started trading both in precious metals, oil and gas, more concentrated on the gas side. And over the last 20 years, there's been an enormous amount of volatility. So a lot of what I do is based on my assessment of risk. And the gentlemen that are looking after the machine, they do the macro and the micro. So the machine itself is a micro trader. So it trades small. We've developed strategies. Of course, you develop one strategy at a time. Sometimes there's a deployment of 6 strategies, 7 strategies. Sometimes it's only one. And based on what the market offers in terms of risk, we've had an opportunity to work with macro trends, i.e., Goldman Sachs is getting in the market, or Bank of America has decided, whatever the news relation is to the Bitcoin itself or the tokens, we put that into the machine's database, and it continues to develop based on what it sees in trading and the multi-horizon inputs from a macro trend specific. So obviously we're in a highly risk-oriented 3 years ago, we're in a highly risk-oriented environment, and a bit of a frontiermanship going on. So as it developed over time, it took us another 2 full years to not just identify, but to work through all the platforms that were available. And we decided that the best thing to do at that time is to wait for the exchanges to be fully compliant, number one, fully registered wherever they're domiciled, number 2, and have an oversight and overview committee, such as you would have with any other security, with any other exchange or ETF or multi-billion-dollar environment or eco structure, if you will. So About a year ago, we launched our first beta. So we went through the alpha. We were seeking alpha at that time, trying to find what we felt was going to give us the greatest return with the least amount of risk. The process was really democratic. We sat down and examined from an analytical perspective where we felt confident that we would be reducing our risk. And some of the input was based on the amount of money at risk at a time per trade as one of the variables. The second variable was time. So the longer the trade, the greater the risk. And one way to look at it is this: if I'm buying or selling, that is, I'm in a short or a long position fund, then I have finite amount of trades. So I believe. So you have to believe at some point in time that your trade is going to create some level of return on investment. Or you straddle it by buying puts, calls, and derivative documents. They give you a right to buy or sell in the future. And a lot of what we looked at was, as opposed to looking for straddles and opposed to looking for long short positions in a traditional sense, we would continue to create an algorithmic trading book that was looking for two things. The first was what is the volatility, number one. What is the volumetric in terms of dollar value coming in? So obviously with Bitcoin, it's a high value amount of trades. It trades on a 24/7 basis. So when we launched, it was April 1st, 2020, in the middle of literal chaos. I think we just passed that point of no return on oil prices that went to zero. It looked like, from our perspective, it was either going to be a great opportunity or we would have to go back and be working in banks. And so we got lucky. We'll be the first to admit that the luck always favors the brave and the courageous. And we felt very confident at the time that the algorithm would work. So we put in a couple $100,000 between ourselves and started. And then we had, there was a great lift, but the tide was with us. We felt ourselves gaining more information. And so how we work internally is that the more we trade, the more we learn. The more we learn, the better the trader. The trader is the algorithm. The trader is the algorithm, is the machine. So the more that we input, the more trades that it executes, the smarter, the faster, and the more nimble it becomes. So our input becomes more macro. We're looking for horizons that affect, for instance, Coinbase goes public tomorrow. There's a correlation between the market going up $5,000 to $10,000 in the last 2 weeks and Coinbase going public. And so that input has to be put into the system. If we didn't trade that information into the system and transfer that data into the system, then it lacks the macro or the big story. The little story, the individual trades, we can do up to 30, 35,000 trades a day. We're on multiple platforms, Japan, Coinbase, we trade in Europe. So we have a 24/7, 365 coverage. If we see arbitrage occur on a moment-to-moment basis, the system itself executes very quickly, and we can do multiple strategies simultaneously. We can deploy 5% of our capital into one strategy and 20% into another one. And we can flip those and shorten the hold period and lengthen the sell and standby period. So we can go standby when we feel the market's crashed out 5 or 10% in a bad day, or 3%, or whatever the number is. And then we wait. The market itself dictates, as does the trading algorithm itself, dictates when we go back in. And so we don't have an emotional response. We're not in charge of the individual trades. We couldn't execute 30,000 trades in the course of a 24-hour period if it was 200 of us. So the machine's very, very quick. It adapts extremely quickly. And so it's the perfect student for us to input data, and it learns daily. So we've had an opportunity. Obviously, the market continues to show lots of gamma. There's an enormous amount of upside potential. You hear it more now than anything else. In fact, I'm really glad I didn't decide to go into gold again and trade that, because it feels as though we've entered into new territory, and it's almost like every single week there's a new reason to be involved in the blockchain, not just as a trader, but also as an applicant and user. And I think very quickly we're going to see this become ubiquitous in everything we do, from where we buy food to how we store our wealth, how we fractionalize ownership in almost anything. From real estate, it'll all be on the chain. And there's, the leaders in all of this, everybody will probably remember Amazon, but there's another 20 Amazons that started and they don't exist. And so I think as it develops over time, Ethereum is the perfect platform for co-venture, co-development, and co-application for real business economic models in the future. And so we feel very strongly about Ethereum. That's us. The algorithm feels very, very strongly about BTC, but it really, really likes what it sees overall. And as it is right now, our returns, I don't know if it's something we should be talking about, but Hitesh, it's totally up to you and Roddy to make that decision. I'm not the type to brag.
Well, can you share really quickly, what is the total volume that has been traded so far in the high velocity fund?
In this fund, based on where we started and where we are today, which is, we started with, in essence, $600,000 total was the input. We put in first a quarter, then another quarter, then we topped it up when we went to another, opened another account at another facility, Huobi in Japan. We've traded well over $3.25 billion worth of value. That's certainly not what we started with, but that's how many trades we do. We've done well over $3.25 billion today in less than a year.
Let's give them an idea of how strong is Apex period, so people have a good idea of the type of company that they're dealing with. That's in hedge fund. The strength behind this. That would be very, very good, because if you Google Apex, there's lots of Apex, on Google, and it's a person wouldn't really know which one to look at to get any idea of who they're actually dealing with.
Well, that's why it's very useful that, Rodney, you should share with everybody the specific link to the website where people can go there. They can look at the company itself. They can see the registrations of the company. They can see the people involved in the company and so on. All of that is on there. Most importantly, the registrations with the SEC that establish that as of last month, this particular company, Apex, I believe it's Apex Financials Private Limited, is specifically under Reg D allowed to work with accredited investors in the US. So that's one of the key things here. In terms of the strength behind the scenes, look, I would rather focus on the numbers than necessarily, really vague things like, oh, there's these people involved in this and there's these people who are aware of this and so on. Just on the high velocity side, like Will said, there's been over $3 billion traded. There's a live trading video on the back office that actually shows evidence of that trading. I think there's over 20 million in that account as well. So this is a very well-regarded, well-registered fund. However, this particular side of Apex is just beginning. It is literally, we are the first people finding out about it, the first people that it's opening to. So I think it's more important to keep that in mind than necessarily name dropping people who are behind the scenes and don't necessarily want to be identified, because there are a lot of people who take positions in different funds and don't like to publicize it.
Got it. Makes thousands of sense.
In fact, I'm always skeptical when there are people promoting something online and then they name drop random people and they're like, oh yeah, Bill Gates and Elon Musk are part of this. And you're always like, what? Like, that makes no sense. Why would, if that was the case, I would be reading about this in some kind of PR, or I would be able to see some documentation showing that. Instead, it's usually just like some, distant relationships. There is this company and that company and so on. So this one, what I really like about this is how upfront it is about the fact that, look, this is the portion that we are just starting out. Here is our history. You can evaluate it yourself, and it's all publicly available. Makes
sense. One more question, I think maybe for Will and maybe you as well, is will there ever be any type of excess training for individuals who want to learn how to do what's going on in the background trading or anything like that? Not that I would, but maybe someone else would. I mean, I prefer if you guys do it all for me. I love it. I love the done
No,
system.
no, and that's something that I've actually asked everybody involved in Apex in the background. I've asked multiple times. No, this is not a trading platform. This is not a training platform. This is not going to be a platform where you train people how to trade and then teach them to trade and give them a little, play area to do that with. If anybody wants to trade themselves, they're welcome to go trade themselves on different locations. This is an aggregated hedge fund or a pooled hedge fund. What that means is that the capital is deployed in the background into all sorts of different things, right? The high velocity trading is one big portion of it. Like I said, there's also the financing of different projects that tend to be much longer term. And then there's the commodity trading that is also longer term than the high velocity trading side. So it's just not feasible. It's not realistic to say to a person, hey, let me teach you how we do this. Because for the most part, what Will just described, all the high velocity trading is not even happening with human intervention, right? People are not involved in that on a micro basis. And Will, if you want to add to that, I hope I didn't butcher it.
No. Everything you said is right on the money. So to answer the question one more time is that if I'm concentrating or the rest of the team is concentrating on opening the book for tutorials, it takes away from our ability to always have inputs. And again, I go back to how the algorithm benefits from continually having input. So more trades, more data, greater expertise. And from a macro perspective, we're always tweaking and doing analyticals on the past history of all the different strategies. So in terms of allocation, capital allocation, and capital allocators, the Apex team with Hedge gives me specific input as to what they wish to deploy. My job is to make sure that the risk is out of the market as quick as possible, whether we're doing 30-minute trades or 2-hour and 30-minute trades. It's all based on the horizon. So we're trying to not just anticipate the horizon, but we're trying to identify the current conditions under which the horizon might come at us. So our perspective is very simple. We're part of an allocation team from the allocators, and our concentration is on the rapid learning, high velocity trade algorithm so that we can enable it to then take it from where it's trading right now and apply it to other commodities and as well as other assets in the blockchain.
Thank you, Will.
I hope.
Yeah, I know that was very helpful.
We got a few questions in the chat, and it says, "What is the link to actual site to research?" If you could get back to the person who invited you, like if it were me, then I'll give you the link, and you can go to the link, and you'll be able to actually go to the site and see all types of data, information, video, SEC filings, you name it, it'll be there. What you say about having to get a credit investor to participate? Don't worry, Cameron. I'll send you the replay. There will be a replay available as well. Someone wants to know, how long does it take to actual withdraw, Hedge?
So the withdrawals actually happen same day if a withdrawal request is put in before 8 or 10. It's on there. So this basically it's the same day if it's done before noon on a day, and if it's done after noon on a day according to Eastern time, then it happens the following day. So it's very, very quick. And you can see right here, right? So whatever you have available in your wallet, you can say, I want to withdraw this and I want it in the form of Ethereum, or I want it in the form of Bitcoin, whatever it is. You basically tell them, give them the address, and that's where it gets sent off to. Okay, any penalty if it's before the 90-day time frame. So look, before you stake, you want to select a stake that you are very comfortable with, because you cannot pull it out before that time period, right? At the end of that 90-day time period, like in my case, this stake right here of 25,000, at the end of 90 days, it will be back in my wallet. And then I can decide to withdraw it or to invest it again or to put it somewhere else. Whatever I want to do is fine. But I cannot do anything with that for those 90 days. That's fundamentally how the staking process works with these tokens.
So it's safe to say that this is not a get-rich-quick program. This is a real investment deal.
That depends on who you ask. If you ask anybody in traditional finance space, is a 20% ROI in a 90-day period or even a 30-day period in some cases, they're going to tell you that's get rich quick. I mean, that's an insane return. What has happened is in the last couple of years, there have been a lot of programs that have never panned out, but they've made promises of the kind of returns that are not sustainable, right? So they'll promise 2, 3, 5% a day. That's not realistic. That doesn't happen on a consistent basis. So this is a legit hedge fund that is performing in the background. Your returns are driven by the performance of the hedge fund. From my perspective, this is the best possible scenario. It's great returns. It is relatively safe. It's very well structured and it's very easy, right? And I can be active on both the investment side and the promotional side, which is great. It allows me to actually participate in a way that I can't with other financial institutions. So I think it depends on how you define, is this get rich quick? No, it's not get rich quick at all. You're not going to be able to put $500 in and pull out $5 million or something ridiculous. But it is a very good vehicle for you to actually be able to participate in. And typically, this is exactly what people have done, right? People who have money, that's what they do. This is what I've done for the last 7 years. I've taken capital and invested it into multiple different funds, into multiple different things in the market. And Apex is just the best mechanism to do that, so that the average person can actually participate in all those things without needing millions of dollars.
Hey, Tess, could you explain? There's a question inside of the actual chat is asking about the promotion part. As a promoter, we could get paid the 2.5% on the first level, for example. So the back pay and the front pay, maybe
So you want to look at this section. So first of all, when you guys go on the site, just go to rewards and look at this PDF on here. The breakdown of the reward is available here. So you can go through this yourself. It's very straightforward. And there is an example here as well that breaks this down. So specifically, John's question is, as promoters, would we get paid out every single day? Yes, that is correct. So let's take the example of my case. In my case, this was the performance fee that was charged today by Apex, correct? So out of this performance fee, which is 159, okay, so let's just say 160, this is the amount, 144 is the amount that would be distributed across the promotional network, okay, across the social network that referred me. So if Rodney was the one who referred me, then Rodney would receive 25% of that. So Rodney would receive $36 today from this particular performance fee that was charged to me. Now, obviously, there were multiple different performance fees charged to me because I have multiple staking contracts, right? I have 3 of them. So Rodney would have actually received 25% of 90% of this and this and this. And then whoever had referred Rodney would receive 10% of that. So whoever referred Rodney would have received $14.40 or 14.4 ATF. So hopefully that makes sense. So yes, that gets paid out every single day. And that's based on what service charge or what performance fee does Apex generate. So all of these rewards / commissions, whatever you want to call them, all of that is coming very specifically from what fees is Apex charging their clients, and they turn around and pay that out to all the affiliates that are involved, or 90% of it. Does that make sense? Is that clearer? Yep, perfect. And yes, this is residual. So this is, again, I have not seen this kind of a structure that is so rewarding in any other setting, in any traditional financial setting. Do they have wiring information for US? Yes. In fact, even Rodney used wiring information. So if you want to wire payments in, then you just go back here and you write the help desk. You just click on this purple help button on the lower right side, and you say, I would like to wire a payment in, and they will reach out to you with the wiring information. Okay, so I think we have covered pretty much every aspect of this. What I would recommend everybody do is get back with the person who invited you on this. If it was Rodney, please message Rodney and you'll get a link from him. Go to the website, create an account. It does not cost anything at any point to create an account and so on. Please go ahead, go through everything on the site. Don't put anything in until you're 100% confident, until you have looked through everything, you understand what the function of this platform is. If you are in the US, then the platform will automatically prompt you and it'll say, hey, you need to confirm that you're an accredited investor. Okay, so like you can see on my screen, in my case, I had to send in documentation to show that I'm accredited. The same thing will come up for you if you're in the US. If you're not in the US, this section will just not come up at all. Okay. And again, you don't have to worry about doing this yourself. It will just come up automatically if and when it applies to you. If it doesn't apply to you, it won't come up. So you can just keep going regardless.
Hey, Atesh, let me do this also. Let me put in here for those of you who are ready to get started now and want to be, got Q&A or questions. We already have a Apex Telegram group that we just set up recently. And I'm going to put that link inside of the group of this chat right quick, so you can just click on it. For those of you who are still interested, give me 1 second here, and I will put that in here. 1 second. Also, the question asked, I don't know if you got this or not, or I missed it. People want to know, can they send money to the company to get started, like wire to the company and get their USDT or their Bitcoin or whatever to get started?
Yeah, I just covered that. Yes, there's if you want to wire payments in, you can do it just like Rodney did. Actually, so Rodney, you wired in as well, if I'm correct. So yeah, so you just basically hit up their help desk and you say, I would like to wire the payment in instead. They will give you the wiring information of their payment processing partner. You would send the payment there and your account will get credited.
Yep. And for those of you guys, I've already got started, and I think this is a great addition to whatever you guys got now or don't have. Get started right away. It says, so if you're not in the US, you don't need to meet the qualifications. That is correct, Mars. You don't need to meet those qualifications. Not at all. So for one thing, you got to understand, guys, if you guys know anyone outside of the United States, and the biggest market for this type of thing will be outside the United States, I guarantee it. That one of the biggest markets, period, that I have come across is the international market. And there's also going to be a nice sized market inside the US too. I'm not trying to discredit that. But the deal would be to get started, create an account, and then you'll start promoting and you'll start to see how many people are actually ready and willing to join you, whether it be in the US or outside the US. Is that correct, Hitesh?
That is correct. One, we fully expect the international market to be much larger. We are actually internally really focused on that. I'm very focused on that, even in my promotions. Secondly, even in the US, people who are genuinely even looking to invest in things, they are typically accredited investors. And I think there's a question in here from KJ. Do we need just one of these? Correct. It's an or thing. So you either need to have a net worth of $1 million or more, or you need to have 2-year tax statements showing an income of 200,000 or more, or you can get a notice from your CPA or an attorney confirming your status as an accredited investor. It's actually much easier to do than you might think. It's actually much more straightforward. I know multiple people who have gotten accreditation verified pretty quickly. I got it done within a couple of days, but it's not nearly as complicated as you might be thinking. But also what I found is that for most people, going through this process was actually really brought them a lot of peace, right? They recognize that this is a platform that's doing things the right way, that they're not eager to accept money unless they can confirm that it is the right person and they're allowed to participate in this. So they are very good about it. And this is actually a much bigger benefit, even in promotions, than you might be thinking if you're asking from that perspective. And yes, Felicia, you can still promote if you are from the US, but you're not accredited. When you create your account, it will literally ask you at the time why you're creating your account. It'll give you a bunch of options. And when you select United States as your location, one of those options will be, I am an accredited investor. You will leave that unchecked. And a second option will be, I'm looking to promote, and I'm an influencer. I'm looking to promote the Apex platform, and you'll check that option instead.
Do we want to open the floor for anybody who has a voice or a question or a comment about what they have seen right quick? That would be very, very helpful. So anybody who wants to have a comment, please raise your hand or unmute yourself and get it answered before we shut off.
Hi, Rodney and Hitesh. It's Brenda. How are you?
Hey, Brenda. Let me guess. You have one question, but it's actually 7.
Well, you know I have like 50 million questions. I'm kidding. You all did an amazing job this second go round because you answered everything in the beginning, and you just clarified a lot of questions that everyone had the last call. So this is perfect. I'd love to have this recording. But I just wanted to say, actually, I didn't have a question. I just wanted to say thank you to Rodney and yourself for bringing this opportunity to us, because you're right. Most individuals do not get to participate or sit at the round table such as this one. And the fact that we can participate and be affiliates and bring those individuals in until we qualify as accredited individual, I'm just excited about it. So I just want to say thank you for just sharing this. And for anyone who is attached to me or in my lineage, make sure you reach out to me for my link. I have already enrolled. And keep in mind, you have the best of 3 worlds, because you get to work alongside with myself, Bitcoin Rodney, and Hitesh. So thank you so much for allowing me to share.
Also, I think, thank you, Brenda, by the way. I'm surprised you didn't have a question, but that's okay. I was looking forward to it. Are there going to be a lot of marketing materials that are going to be added so that people can use the proper information when they're marketing?
Yes. So Apex is very strict about their compliance. So there is going to be very specifically a page that they're putting up that will have the pre-approved videos and things like that can be shared, which will make our life much easier as well, obviously. And I think it's better that we just stick with what's already on the site. There's already calculators on the site. There's already tools on the site. There's a presentation on the site. There's obviously these PDFs on the site, which cover all the things on the promotion side. So all of this is already available. If there's something specific that we want to request, like maybe, translations in a different language, I think that's going to be evaluated on a case-by-case basis. There's one more thing that we are working on. Rodney and I were working on a funnel system or a funnel page that could be used to promote things. I have spoken with Apex about it, and Apex has already confirmed with me that they are already adding a funnel onto the platform. So we will have all the marketing materials you could need.
Yeah, and one more time, remember, guys, number one, if you want to join up, the Telegram link I did put inside the chat. So click the actual link in the chat, and you'll be inside of our Telegram group. This is for only those who are serious. If you're not serious, please don't click the link at all, because it'll just be removed sooner or later. Number 2, we are the first, guys. So when you hit the online, social media, YouTube, whatever, there will not be a lot of resistance, because you're gonna be the first ones to start putting this out there. So take advantage of that right now while you got it, because you're always wishing that I wish I can get in early when Rodney did or Hedge did. Now you can. I've only been in a week, so it works. It will work if you work it. Get back to the person who invited you here.
I just have a quick question.
Sure, go ahead. Who's speaking?
My name is Fidel.
Okay, great. Go ahead.
Yeah. I'll just be honest with you. Actually, I already joined with this platform, and I already created my account. And because I'm trying to reach my sponsor, is not giving me an option to get back with me, and it's too stressful me, and I have a lot of questions. Since I already created an account, can I sign up with another person whom I trusted?
Who was the person? Do you know the person's name who you signed up with?
Yes, but I can message you.
Yeah, I would suggest just join the Telegram group and please message Rodney about it, and he can help you sort that whole thing out. Yeah, largely, I would like to keep questions focused on the Apex side or high velocity trading side specifically, so we can address those. But anything to do with sponsor or who you created an account under, I would suggest sign up for the Telegram group for sure, because that's available to everyone. And then message Rodney and we'll find out what's going on and get you sorted.
Okay, that's perfect.
Hey,
Yeah, because I'm ready to put in something, but I told him I'm ready to put something to get started, but it's
Don't
been
worry.
like,
We'll get you straight. Don't worry. We just
okay, perfect.
get in Telegram group and we'll figure out what's going on and get you rocking and rolling. Hedge, there's a question here that says, what about the taxation, since this is blockchain space, but being
Yeah, very happy to answer that. I actually enjoy questions about taxation because who doesn't, right? No, I don't enjoy taxation questions at all. So look, the taxation essentially is on your side. The way it works, and this is the way it has always worked, is any gains that you generate in your personal life, you're supposed to report to the government and post that. Apex does not do that on your behalf. Apex will never do that on your behalf because this is not a platform that manages your cryptocurrency for you, right? When you request a withdrawal in, let's say, Bitcoin or Ethereum, they're going to send that Bitcoin or Ethereum to your account, right? To your address. Now, what you do with that is up to you. If you never pull that into your US banking system, that's up to you. That has nothing to do with Apex. That has nothing to do with filings for the Apex and so on. So hopefully that kind of clarifies it. This is not a question of, is it being monitored by the SEC? Basically, Apex has filed with the SEC as saying that we are under Reg D 506C. We are going to be working with US investors, and they're going to be putting out quarterly reports, basically showing the performances and so on.
Yeah, that makes a lot of sense. And Cameron says, what marketing source are you guys using? Don't worry, Cameron, just make sure you're inside of the actual Telegram chat. And right now, just use a lot of the information that's on the actual site. But we are getting together a bunch of compliance material that you can use, so that because Apex takes things very, very serious when it comes to compliance, because it's SEC certified. So we want you to make sure you have the proper information. So use a lot of the information that you see on the site, which you'll get from the link when you join. Anyone else?
And just to clarify, it's SEC registered, not certified. SEC doesn't certify anything.
Okay,
right?
my bad.
So,
my bad.
Yeah, no, again, it's little stuff like this that we want to be careful about, because next thing we know, somebody's made a Facebook post saying SEC certifies the first crypto platform, right? That's just what happens. So gotcha. I want to be very clear about it.
Gotcha. All right, guys. Well, listen, I think you'll be answered and gone through just about everything you guys have asked. And this recording will be available for you to send out to your list or whatever within about the next 30 minutes to an hour. So if you're inside of the Telegram group, you will get a copy of this actual recording. You guys get excited. Thank you, Hitesh. Thank you, Will. Thank you, everybody who showed up here today. Now it's time to get busy. It's time to start rocking and rolling. And I'll see you guys at the bank. Peace.